Well, today we're still in Cherbourg. We were meant to be in Honfleur this morning, and I woke up and I opened the curtains and thought, this looks familiar. So we've gone nowhere. This morning then we woke up and stayed in our cabin a little bit longer. I woke up about 8, reading through. We had a little note from Ambassador on Facebook. I read that through to say we'd be staying in Cherbourg now and we were leaving about 1 o'clock. Ambassador had put on some coaches for us so we could get into Cherbourg, explore the towns and make sure we're back on board for 1 to depart. John was sleeping in a little bit and by 9 o'clock came, and the next thing we were moving away from the dock. There seems to be another change of plans. Things are changing rapidly on board, that you can't guarantee anything at the moment. At that point, it wasn't clear whether we were going to Tilbury or still managing to get into Honfleur. It wasn't long before we had notification from the captain to say that unfortunately we would not be going to Honfleur at all now, which was the replacement port for Le Havre. So we're not doing either of them now, and we're going straight back to Tilbury.
If you're new to our channel, we are Tom and Dom Travel, and we put out a new cruise related video every week on our YouTube. So make sure you press that subscribe button and don't forget to give us a like. After a little bit of a turbulent start with misinformation and just not knowing what on earth was happening, we thought we'd go up onto the top deck, deck 14, and just have a little bit of a walk in the fresh air as we were sailing away from Cherbourg.
We did a couple of laps around the ship. You can definitely tell there's been bad weather overnight, definite signs of very windy conditions.
Somehow there seems to be white paint all over the place.
Yeah.
Really strange.
Don't know why that is. There's a lot of white paint. The furniture's all tied up to keep it from blowing away, I suppose, because it was that bad. From our little walk outside, we headed into the Borough Market buffet, and it was absolutely rammed. The thing is, if you go anytime after 9 o'clock in the morning, the Borough Market is so full and you do really struggle to find a seat.
It doesn't help that the main dining room closes for breakfast at 9 AM either, because if that was open as well, pretty much the passengers would be spread across 2 venues.
However, we found a table and shared it with 2 lovely ladies, and then we went to get our food, and as usual our food was fantastic. I had my usual breakfast, hash browns, bacon, beans, sausage, no different, kept to my routine.
And I just had a couple of bowls of cornflakes as well.
The one thing we did find today, it was really difficult to get ourselves a cup of tea. When we went to one station there were no cups, and when we went to the second station there was no hot water because both of the machines apparently were heating up the water.
After breakfast we then went down to get ourselves a proper coffee down in Centre Court from DICKENS.
We really do like the premium coffees on board, so we decided to chill out for an hour, sit down in DICKENS and enjoy 2 lattes.
Absolutely lovely. And once again, if you've got the Expedition drinks package, those premium teas and coffees are included, as well as your daily gratuities, which is fab.
Fab. Reception was busy, probably because we're coming to the end of the cruise and people are doing queries about their bill, plus people are requesting letters for missed ports, which we're not sure why they're doing that now, because we're on the 4th time we've missed a port. So passengers should be aware that they come delivered to your door with the letters. I'm not sure why they're queuing at reception asking for one when they know you get them delivered to your door.
Ambassador have been absolutely fantastic with missed port letters. So these letters you can then send off to your insurance to claim for a missed port if you have missed port cover on your cruise cover travel insurance. On most other lines you do have to go up to reception and request them, but Ambassador have been absolutely fab, and as Tom said, we have had 4 of them because we've missed 4 ports.
Ambassador's communication has also been very good. We've had lots of updates from the captain, and Ambassador also posts the updates on their Facebook page, which is something I haven't seen any other line do. They do keep you really up to date.
It was only this morning's post that had us confused because we literally just read it and then we were pulling away from Cherbourg.
Yeah, it just went for a conversation to say, oh, we'll get off shortly and we'll have a little wander around town to, oh, we're leaving. After we spent about an hour having a coffee and a relax in the centre court area, which was very busy because it is now a sea day, we headed back to our room to unfortunately start that dreaded packing, ready to go home tomorrow. We stayed in our room for about an hour, getting all our stuff together. By that time we felt actually quite like we needed another walk outside just to get a bit of fresh air.
We did have disembarkation information in our cabin a few nights ago, and what is interesting, they don't give you disembarkation luggage tags. You just keep the ones you used for embarkation, which is great because we've got our plastic luggage tags and it keeps them all nice and safe.
It is tempting when they're on your case as paper, just paper, to rip them off, but because they're in the plastic luggage tags, they have been kept safe and they're pretty sturdy. We then headed back up to top deck because we planned to do a few more laps to get a bit of fresh air. Be careful what we wish for because we ended up in a hailstorm. The hail was so heavy, it was absolutely piling down.
I felt sorry for the poor workmen that were on the top deck because, as we previously mentioned, because of the wind and the storm, there's just little bits of white paint everywhere, but the team on board are working incredibly hard to clean it up, and then there was this hailstorm.
The team out there, all out there washing down the decks, fantastic, working really hard to make sure the ship is looking great.
So during the hailstorm, we gave up on the idea of having a little walk around the top deck, getting our steps up, so we headed into the observatory lounge to see if we could get a seat.
Observatory lounge was really busy because it's a sea day, but also they were just about to start a cha-cha-cha dance class because they have put on extra activities, which is fantastic. This includes craft sessions, yoga sessions, knit and natter, and the dance classes.
We've previously mentioned about the seats that go around the observatory along the windows, and unfortunately they are always occupied.
As we've said before, people do put themselves there and they stay there for the day, so if you want one of those seats you need to get there early and take a packed lunch because you shouldn't leave.
Yeah. By now it was coming up to 12 o'clock, so we thought we'd nip into the Borough Market just to have a look at some of the dinner options.
There was a fantastic selection. What we did notice though, it was a lot of passengers already sat there, and I think they sit there because they get their free tea and coffee, which does mean by the time it comes to lunch, a lot of the tables are already taken up by people who are sitting there enjoying the free tea and coffee, so they're not moving on around the ship.
So it just makes it a little bit difficult for passengers that do want to go have a quick lunch and leave, because you are on the hunt for somewhere to sit down.
However, we did have a look at the food selection and once again it looked great. We could have easily stayed there and had something to eat, but we'd already planned that we were going to the Buckingham restaurant for lunch.
So instead of taking the lifts, because the aft lifts for some reason are a little bit temperamental. One day all three will work, the next day one will work and the other two will be out of service, and sometimes all three just stop working for some reason.
Yeah.
The crew are on it and constantly trying to repair them and getting them fixed. But sometimes you can be stood there a little while, especially at lunchtime, evening meals, breakfast. Those aft lifts are incredibly busy because the Buckingham and the Borough Market are all to the aft of the ship. So we decided to take the stairs and actually walk down to deck 7.
Luckily we were one of the first to arrive and we were shown quickly to our seat. This time we were given a table for 2, which is nice because we could do lunch at our own pace. For starter today then, I went for the soup. I know it's getting boring because I have soup every time, but I really enjoyed the soup consomme this time.
And I opted for the ham and cheese toasty. And it was a very unusual toasty, but it was absolutely delicious. I think it was eggy bread with ham and cheese in the middle, and it was fab. I really enjoyed it, and it came with a little side of tomato sauce. Beautiful.
It was almost a smiley face.
Yeah, it was.
And then for main, I went for the chicken and mushroom pie. Now that was very tasty and it looked brilliant. The crust was lovely. I was expecting it to be like a white creamy sauce. It wasn't. It was still very tasty.
And I opted for the chicken burger, which came with chips and a little bit of coleslaw. Was it the best chicken burger I've ever had? No, but it was okay.
I was feeling quite full, and I know that tonight we are going to Saffron, so I didn't have dessert because I'm saving myself.
And for my dessert, I chose to go for the chocolate eclair, and it came with a side of cream, and the waiter also brought me a scoop of ice cream with it as well. It was absolutely delicious. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Really, really quick and efficient experience.
All in all, we were in the Buckingham for around about 45 minutes. Really quite a quick lunch. Again, you could have had 4 courses, but neither of us were feeling particularly hungry today. Well, I had 3, you had 2.
We're saving ourselves for this evening.
We are looking forward to it.
After lunch then, we headed back to our cabin where we are now.
Filmed this. Ta-da. We then spent a little time in our cabin, just finishing off packing a few bits, and then we made our way down to Centre Court for a musical mystery quiz. Now, they did have one of these the other day, but we missed it because I think we were out and about exploring one of the ports. We got there around about 45 minutes before it started, just because we knew it was going to be busy.
As it's CJ, they moved the musical mystery from Raffles to the Centre Court, and it's a good job they did because the Centre Court was full. It started off being introduced by Dave, the assistant cruise director, who let us know what was going to happen during the show. Then 2 actors came out playing the roles, and the pianist Jamie Lees then popped in a little bit of musical numbers through the piece, and it's those musical numbers that you had to guess. The script of the show the actors were doing helped you with clues to work out what the songs Jamie Lees were playing. It sounds more complicated than it is. It took us probably the first 2 songs to work out exactly what was going on, but once we did that, we found it really enjoyable and it worked really well.
We managed to get 12
out of 17. So not
too bad.
No.
I think the winning couple had 15.
While we were down there in the Centre Court, we also ordered a couple of drinks. I was on the hot chocolates and Dom was on the gins. So completely different, but the service was particularly good. They did call in a few other waiters from other bars across the ship, you could tell, to support, but there were no problem in getting a drink while we were down there.
The musical mysteries quiz lasted around only about 20 minutes in total, and then we made our way up to the Borough Market for a bit of afternoon tea and to grab some late night snacks.
Whilst we were having afternoon tea, we managed to grab 2 seats at the aft of the ship with that aft view, which is a real prime spot here in the Borough Market restaurant. You can never normally get those seats, so we were really lucky because today it's nice and sunny now, and we've managed to get 2 prime seats looking out over the aft.
We picked up a few little treats today. They had some crepes, some sausage rolls, and some of their fresh homemade shortbread, which is absolutely fantastic.
After stopping off then in the Borough Market, we headed back to the cabin where we would get ready for tonight.
So after getting ready in our cabin, we made our way up to deck 12 to Saffron. Now, Saffron is the Indian-inspired speciality onboard Ambassador Ambience, and it's quite unusual because it's pretty much at the back of the buffet. Now, we have sat in there and had breakfast before. However, when we got in there, we were greeted, and as we walked in, we were completely surprised at the transformation.
It looks a really, really nice venue. It's located right at the aft. It's got beautiful views of the sun going down over the back of the ship, and they have transformed it, and it does look different of a night time.
They've put cushions, tablecloths. It did look absolutely fantastic. We couldn't believe it was the same venue that we've had breakfast in.
So on to the meal itself. We were greeted by our waiter who explained the menu to us. He let us know that the starter and the dessert are set items, and your main course is then a choice for you.
They brought us out set starter for 2, and on there was
chicken tikka, naan bread, samosas, mint and yogurt sauce, and a mixed kebab.
To start us off, it was absolutely phenomenal. They also give us a side of naan breads as well, and they were delicious. All in all, the starter was quite spicy. Like the chicken tikka was a little bit spicy.
Now, I found it okay. I thought it was really nice.
I'm not saying it was bad spice. I'm just saying it did have a lovely little kick to it. The mixed meat kebabs were a little bit spicy. Not bad spicy, but We thoroughly enjoyed the whole starter. It was delicious.
Then we went on to our main.
For my main, I opted to go for the butter chicken, and it was a little bit like a chicken tikka. It was delicious. You had lovely chunks of chicken in there. They'd obviously garnished it with a bit of yogurt and some fresh herbs. It looked fantastic and it tasted incredible. To accompany the main, they also had their pila rice and it was delicious. They had bits of fried onion in there. It was absolutely fab.
Really, really good. And I went for this platter where you could try everything. It was called the Royal Indian Maharaja Thali, and that was an Indian style meal made up of a selection of various dishes served on this big silver platter in little pots. And in there was a dal, an aloo, a chicken masala. It was beautiful. Again, with mine, I shared some of the rice that Dom had, and we also had some naan breads and some poppadoms as well. What a fantastic meal it was. It was so tasty. It was phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, we definitely overate because neither of us could move afterwards.
Yeah.
It was superb. The dessert is a set dessert that you get at the end of the meal, and it consists of 3 different items. One was a yogurt-based dessert that had sprinkled almonds as well as a deep fried bit of bread. It was a little bit interesting. I wouldn't say it was the best thing I'd ever eaten, but Tom thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I wouldn't describe it as bread, I would describe it as traditional Indian dessert.
We had a chai tea as well.
Yes, that was very tasty. I really enjoyed the chai tea.
And accompanying those two, we also had a chocolate kulfi, which was absolutely delicious.
Oh my god, I could have ate a whole plate of those chocolates. It was very, very indulgent, but very tasty.
Again, we are on the Ambassador Expedition package, so it was all included. Well, the wine was anyway. The cost of the speciality in Saffron is $14.95, and all of the specialities that we've done throughout our cruising history, we think Saffron is definitely the best value considering just how amazing the food was.
After Saffron then we headed down to the Purple Turtle, where it was time for a game show.
This is the first time we've actually made it to the Purple Turtle before a game show had started, so we were so impressed.
So we're at the last day of our cruise and we have eventually made it there before the game show started.
Tonight's game show was Truth or Lies.
3 of the actors on board took part and Dave, the assistant cruise director, was host. Each of the actors took turns in telling a story and the audience members had to work out which one was telling the truth and which one was lying. The point of the game show was to work out in 3 rounds which was the liar, and the audience or the team member that was lying would win depending on who found out.
It was an interesting game show and we thoroughly enjoyed it. It was full of laughs and entertainment and it was very, very good.
Really, really fun. Great to see everybody taking part. We would love to have done more of those game shows.
After the game show in the Purple Turtle, we quickly hurried to the Palladium Theatre for tonight's performance of the Chicago-inspired musical.
All That Jazz was performed by all the show cast. It also featured a couple of the onboard actors and the cruise director George.
Who knew he could sing?
Yeah. It was a really, really fun musical. We did find some of the elements a little bit strange, to be honest with you, because we were following along the story of Chicago and then we had some random songs thrown in which we didn't find made that much sense. So we had a bit of ABBA, a bit of Billie Eilish, but also all the hits from the Chicago musical itself.
The team performed them perfectly. It was an outstanding performance.
Yeah. And also the costumes involved with the feathers and the feather boas, the fans. It was fantastic. Really, really good.
Even the set design was just superb. We thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm a fan of Chicago and I've got to say I was really, really impressed with the performance that the team put on tonight.
After the show then we headed back to our room just so we could put our suitcases out because they need to be outside your room before midnight. When we arrived in our room we were greeted with a letter, obviously detailing some of the incidences that had happened throughout our cruise and very generously offering us, if we booked another British Isles cruise up until June, we would be able to get 25% off that cruise.
All in all, we think that's very fair of Ambassador. When you do go on cruises, you cannot account for the weather. The weather this cruise has been completely unprecedented. We understand that, and we think what Ambassador have done is very, very generous. So thank you very much.
After we popped back to the cabin, we then headed up to the Observatory Lounge for our final drink. Great to go up there for one more drink, but we didn't manage to stay there for long because we knew we had an early get up in the morning.
We have to vacate our cabin by 7:30 tomorrow morning, which we've got to say is one of the earliest times we've ever experienced.
They give you disembarkation time, so even though saying we all need to be out our cabin by 7:30, they've actually given us a disembarkation time of 11. That is a really long time to hang about the ship, whereas we'd like to just get off. For a smaller ship, you'd think we could get the passengers off much quicker. We shall see how we get on in the morning.
We popped into the 24-hour buffet in the Borough Market just to grab a drink, and then we headed back to the cabin where I happily munched on some sausage rolls that I'd hoarded from afternoon tea this afternoon.
So that's it, that's our final night on board Ambience, and we shall see you in the morning. Well, Dom, after a long drive home from Tilbury, we are back in Wales. So let's talk about our disembarkation.
As we previously said, we had to vacate our cabin by 7:30 this morning, and that was very early. We never had to leave a cabin before 8 o'clock before.
No, and it was a real struggle for us to get up at that time and get ourselves ready and out by 7:30. Yes, we know there's some early birds about, but for us that is difficult. As we left our cabin, we then headed up one level to the Buckingham restaurant to get some breakfast.
We joined a shared table right by the window, and we had some real good conversations and pleasantries with our fellow disembarking passengers.
Yeah, we enjoyed some of the stories about what everyone had been up to during their cruise with Ambassador.
For breakfast this morning, I just opted to have something a little bit different, and I went for a cheese and tomato omelette, and it was absolutely delicious. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I didn't opt for something different, and I still had my bacon, sausage, beans and hash browns. Didn't change my routine really at all. I did also have a croissant that I ordered before my breakfast, but then I had to wait for the jam which came after my breakfast, so I ate the croissant after my full English. Breakfast really didn't take long at all. It was quite efficient. From there we headed out on deck to have a look at the terminal itself.
As we said in day one, Tilbury is a very old but very beautiful terminal. We were just watching all of the commotion, the ship refueling and resupplying for the next cruise.
Yeah, baggages were coming off. We headed back in and headed to Centre Court first. Had a look what was going on, worked out what we were doing next, and then headed to Purple Turtle where we were due to disembark from.
Ambassador had allocated a number of venues on board for different categories and decks of passengers, and you're assigned those, and you basically just have to wait in that location until they're ready for you to disembark.
Yes, Ambassador run what they call a silent disembarkation. There can't be any shipwide announcements due to local rules to say that they can't be making any loud noises on the ship.
So we waited a little while, so we made our way back down to deck 5 and disembarked the ship.
We got off the ship very, very quickly. It was nice and easy. As we left, we entered pretty much straight away into the baggage hall where all the suitcases are laid out by deck number. We collected our suitcase and then headed out the terminal. It is worth saying that there were lots and lots and lots of porters available to help anyone who was struggling with their luggage.
As we paid for port parking with Ambassador, we literally just had to walk across the road to the car and we were done.
It's the closest we've ever parked to a ship, so it made it so easy, and probably from leaving the ship itself to getting to our car was about 10 10 minutes. Not a problem. Fantastic.
So that's the end of our 11-night British Isles cruise on board Ambassador Ambience. We've had an absolutely fab time. Hopefully you've enjoyed our vlog series. If you think somebody else might enjoy it as well, please share. We've also got a full Ambassador Ambience review available on our channel, so make sure you check that out as well. Thanks for watching our final day on board Ambassador Ambience and our disembarkation. If you've got any comments or questions, just pop them in the box below and we'll get back to you.
And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, hit the bell notification to never miss a video from us. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Thanks for watching. We've got lots more content available on our YouTube channel, so press that subscribe button. If you're interested in receiving daily updates, we're available on most social media platforms. Just search for Tom and Dom Travel.